Shaka used to play for.
Yeah.
Play Manchester United this weekend. West Ham. Let's take a look at what the predictions were for this game as well. These are the odds going into it. Two teams that both need points, but for very different reasons. West Ham just 4 points clear of the relegation zone right now. Here are the predictions. Shaka.
What?
Come on.
What?
You're not giving your old side any hope.
Yeah, a whole lot of hope for a point. Listen, West Ham are down the bottom. West Ham have been in the conversation about relegation for most of the season for a reason. And I think you saw some of that against Crystal Palace. I thought they gave up rather ridiculous goals and far too many of them. I think Crystal Palace pose a greater threat attacking than Manchester United right now. Crystal Palace are one of the more open, kind of fun teams to watch in this form when they play on the front foot. They're disappointing defensively themselves. But then you saw some of the concern from with Manchester United in that it's Rashford or bust attacking-wise. So that's how it seems to feel right now. And so I feel that West Ham can cope with that. And I feel they get a point at home. I don't see them winning, I'll be honest with you. But I feel they're good enough to cope with the threat that Manchester United has.
I think he's special. It's his passion, his strength. Of course, there's a certain level you have to control it. You need passion, desire to win your games and to win medals. And I think he's very strong-willed. He's very ambitious. As I say, don't go over the top. Stay focused on your game and what the team needs. And doing that, he is a great player. His improvement is quite obvious.
Every time we think he's about to get dropped, he puts one in the top corner, gives him another 3 or 4 games, in which in those 3 or 4 games, he flatters to deceive. And then all of a sudden you think he's going to get dropped again. And then he'll maybe produce an assist. So he, right now, is a guy who we all agree has ability, we all agree on his day can win you a game, but there's not enough of those days. So I don't entirely agree with Ten Hag at all.
It's a fine line with this passion and fire as a player.
It is, and when your opponents realise how close you are to cross the line, or how easy it is to get you to cross that line, they will play on that. Listen, I understand what Ten Hag is trying to say about Antony, and in a sense, I agree, and will go as far as saying I think Antony is an incredibly talented footballer. There's no question. He has the tools. Now, the issue with Antony for me is how you use those tools, or more to the point, when you use them. Too often we've sat here and seen Antony dribble past a defender and then turn back. Too often we've seen him try to showboat, and then, again, because players know he's right on the edge because of this passion, and can get him off his game. So at this level of the game, it's not enough just to have the tools. It's not enough just to show them off on occasion or when you're dominating. It's how you use them to change games. And for me, Antony doesn't change games. He is not the kind of player that you can go to, you can rely on in tight circumstances, at a 0-0, when you want somebody to unlock a defence. Going back to the Brighton game. And while I sat here and I praised Wan-Bissaka for the job that he did on Matoma, one of the reasons that Brighton are so good is because of how good Matoma has been. In a very similar position, right? Different flank. And Antony likes to come inside on his left. But Matoma, you know, he wants to take players on one-on-one. So Brighton tried to separate him and have him go at defenders. You do that with Antony, you're not quite sure that the ball's going to get into the box. He's happy to run at players, but he's not. Once he gets, or if he gets the better of them, I don't think there's a lot of end product to it. And it's those thin margins that make the biggest differences at this level of the game. And for me, so far, he's left a lot to be wanted.
Kieran, what do you think about him as a player? Is he one of those players that opposition teams will look at knowing that they could be a liability and you could poke and prod, basically?
Yeah, but you know what? With these types of players, and I played with a few players that have that extra bit of fire in them. As long as if they're doing their job like week in, week out, and they're scoring every week and they're getting assists, and that you can rely on them, like Shaka says, at a 0-0, then I've got no issue with how you want to present yourself, and if you have a little moan up here and there. But if you're not doing it and you're still showing these kinds of behaviours, that's when I find it a little bit over the top. But I think Ten Hag would have actually pulled him after that and had a go. I think he's protecting him in the media, but I think he's definitely, you can't just, there's no excuse to be doing that. You got to focus on the team, like he says, and it's not always about you, and I think that maybe sometimes he just needs to make it not so much about him and the team, because like Shaka says, like, he is a top player. You can tell he's got it. It's just that little extra bit, and I think if he just works on that, we'll probably see a much better Antony next season.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube, and for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app, and for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.